Hi everybody, welcome back to Gear Gossip. Yeah, it's about 99 in the shade in Germany, and I have nothing better to do than sitting around in my studio and reviewing the next thing that came in through my studio door. In this case, a humbucker for electric guitar by Joe Barden, the two-tone humbucker. As you can see, it's beautifully black. It's also available in beautifully white, and it has two blade coils, magnets, however you want to call this. Looks very modern, very solid, and very well manufactured. And these blades are slightly curved to accommodate for, how do you call that? The fretboard radius, I guess. And there's nothing more to say about features when it comes to humbuckers. Nah, wrong. The special thing about this humbucker is this extensive amount of cables coming out. I'm counting 7, including shields, and there's a reason for this. The two-tone humbucker is supposed to be a humbucker that gives you a humbucker sound, one tone, and the other one is a single coil sound, second tone, in a single package. Why you could say, oh, this is something that I can do with any humbucker that comes with 4 conductors. Yeah, the Joe Barden approach is slightly different. Let me explain this. Regular humbucker consists of 2 coils, and if you go split, you just drop one. So you just have one half-baked single coil that is winding away, that is supposed to be half a humbucker, yeah, and so on. With Joe Barden, you don't split, you coil tap. That means on both sides you are losing windings, and that way you're getting a different sound. More clarity, more treble, more plong, less output. Yeah, that translates into single coil for most people. And that's why you have 6 cables, regular and coil tap. And if you're interested in Joe Barden a little bit further than this review does, this coil tap, as we call this, is at least electrically identical to these small single coil size thingies that Joe Barden was and still is famous for. So these blade things are identical, except for the spacing. All right? The shootout is in my double neck guitar. Just simple, regular, same Duncan SH1, the 59, the whites are the same Duncan, the black are the, okay. A good deal more bass as I perceive this, less treble in terms of harmonics, string resonance, and blah blah blah. A slight deal of honkiness, very smooth, very clear, and something that you might not hear but feel when you're playing. You have a solid attack on any string, on any note. Pop, 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 full frequency, plop, 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 plop. Not that much of a difference, but still this more honk and more attack. 2 good sounds. In between, both in parallel. Okay, the Joe Barden has a slightly different voice, to put it like this. While the Seymour Duncans have more airiness, more harmonics, the Joe Barden still have this attack, and they, surprisingly enough, they have this treble notch now, this ring that is added to the top end. Oh, not that bad. Next thing is a little bit more gain and mid-range nasty sound. Again, a little bit more in the sound. While I perceive the semi-Duncans as a little bit more present and a little bit more trebly, to put it like this, the Joe Bardens now get some sort of edge to them. These, depending on your amp's focus in terms of distortion, this could really start to cut, but it's not that much of a difference, is it? Oh. By the way, if you're listening to this video or all my other videos through your smartphone device or some shabby Windows laptop, just don't use speakers and decent headphones, please. You won't get the difference through regular, you know? Now a little bit more trebly, ringing. In this example, I think the Joe Barden is a little bit less unnerving. Still enough treble, more treble than you could actually use. And did you notice the bass string? Bong! Even at full, cutting through. Okay, the semi-Duncan still sounds a little bit more aggressive. That is depending on setting. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. There's a good deal more bass going on here, more definition on the bass strings, which is something that I noticed while playing. I really had to work a lot with palm mutes for the bass strings, while this comes very natural on the Joe Bardens. Again, a little bit more present sound from the semi-Duncan, and the Joe Barden has more irk. It's all depending on your preferences. But what is clear in soloing to me is you don't get lost in the mix. You don't go like there's supposed to be an attack somewhere in there. No, you just go on every string, tuck, 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 tuck. No matter how much gain you use, you still have your attack. You don't get lost. So much for the humbucker sound. Smooth, more bass, clear, honky, and noiseless. A little bit less airiness, vintage, wrangly-dangly sounds. A little bit more modern than vintage. Now for single coil. Now I'm comparing the semi-Duncan in split, just one side, against the Joe Barden coil tapped. Okay, you can use the semi-Duncan that way. You don't have to. The Joe Barden sounds much more grown up and smooth and hollow and honky. It's a good sound. I actually prefer this sound to the humbucker sound, but that's just my thing. The next thing is in between. So both Joe Bardens in coil tap and the semi-Duncan, 2 single coils. My personal opinion is that I prefer the Seymour Duncan in split. There's some sort of metallic clang coming in there, and you don't have that much of string resonance, and I don't know how to call this actually. I'm playing stone picks, and this scrapiness, this whing that you get when you're hitting the strings is a little bit lost, suppressed. If you're one of those guys who don't like that much of a string attack, you might be better off. Well, you could use both sides, I guess. No, the Joe Barden still sounds a little bit more full-bodied, but the main point of this comparison comes now, because no matter what kind of sound you prefer, this one doesn't hum at all. You might have counted with me, we have one smooth big fat humbucker and we have one big smooth fat single coil sound, if you want to put it like this. So that's two-tone, mission accomplished. No, actually it's technically possible to use the same thing split with the Joe Barden also. Okay, it's not recommended, the pickup is not built to be used like this, blah blah blah. Whenever somebody tells me it's not recommended, I try anyway. Like speeding on the highway. So now we're going to hear the Seymour Duncan split against the Joe Barden split, the not recommended split, the regular with any guitar split. Hello, need I say more? I've just come from a good and usable fat humbucker to a good and usable single coil sound, the not recommended single coil sound. While using the Seymour Duncan that way, it goes from alright to goodbye. I have a full-bodied, usable single coil sound, but I'm sorry folks, you should not use it that way because it's not recommended. Don't. Just like on Fender amps. Don't crank them, they might distort. That's not recommended. As I said, just don't. Don't. Next summary, we have full fat humbucker, smooth and honky, full fat single coil, slightly honky, and harmonically rich and open, cool single coil sound, 3, and the more perceptive might have noticed, you have a 4th sound in there. When you're using the coil tap mode, the recommended single coil mode of the two-tone humbucker, again, it's not recommended to use this side alone. So you have a very weak and trebly single coily sound, but you have it. That means you have 4 sounds on tap with 1 humbucker. So much for the basic sounds, and now you have the pleasure to hear my sloppy noodling for some minutes, and then comes the verdict.